Actually, there are not a lot of important articles today. We can sum up the entire articles like in 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. So the session will be relatively smaller. Having said that, we will try to include one answer writing part so that you can learn that extra skill today. Okay, the first article is about antimicrobial resistance. What is antimicrobial resistance? Basically, in India, the problem is the indiscriminate usage of antibiotics for every small problem. Now, this article is discussing two facets of antimicrobial resistance. One is the science behind it, and two, whenever a very important scientific issue is supposed to be communicated to the public at large, what should be the style of communication? This is the focus of the article. Why is communication important? First of all, see, any problem that arrives in at a specific time period. Let's say, for example, COVID. Why was communication so important during COVID? When I say communication, it is from the state to the citizens. Any scientific communication should ideally be taken up by scientists only, but not in the language of science, but in the language that people understand. If this communication is entirely outsourced to media, there is a ethical concern there. So this article is a combination of ethics and science. Okay, so in this article we will be looking at what are the ethical concerns when you hand over the entire communication part to PR agencies, journalists alone. Again, journalists also have their ethics for reporting. They will also verify the facts. But the tone of communication is extremely important, is the point of view. At this present time period, the communication is something on these lines. Let's say if you pop antibiotics continuously, there will come a point where none of the existing drugs will work, and those superbugs which will develop resistance, they will end up killing the entire humanity. So is this really helping us, this kind of narrative? Why is it not helping us? Because it is creating a sense of fear. It is not giving us any confidence. So the communication style with respect to any danger should not be oversimplified or glorified. See, whenever we are talking about bacteria and human body as such, there are two aspects. Not every bacteria is bad. As a matter of fact, even in our gut, there is something called biome, a complete ecosystem which is facilitating digestion and well-being of human beings. So, when the narrative is every bacteria is bad, we end up misunderstanding even our gut bacteria, and we don't. A lot of people take up this antibiotics as if there's some snacks. They just keep on popping for everything. That will create a danger of destroying our gut bacteria, and it is very difficult to restore that sometimes in extreme cases. So what will this create? It will create a situation where you are amplifying the inflammation in your body. So this is the central argument of this article. Here they are talking about this specific paragraph that I want you to read. If the language of catastrophe no longer works, what can? The answer lies in making the story personal. Instead of talking only about the future collapse of healthcare systems. We must talk about the present impact on individual bodies. The focus must shift from statistics to biology. This paragraph can be used in your exam in two ways. It indicates the power of persuasion. So there is this topic, social influence and persuasion, in emotional intelligence part of ethics. There, if you change the attitude of communication, style of communication, it will bring about a change in the thought process of people. So if you stop using fear as an emotion to drive home your point and use empathy and logic, that will create a difference in the minds of the people. Apart from this, what else is there? This part, this last paragraph. From resistance in hospitals to resilience in the body, from global catastrophe to personal consciousness, from fear to fragrance, from the language of war to language of wisdom. The good, the bad, the ugly bugs all live with us. So what is the messaging here? I'm not teaching you any concept here. I'm teaching you how to write, because from today in this present article, we got a scope to discuss presentation, because there are not a lot of articles which are worthy of examination. So I'm focusing on writing skills. One of the writing that you have to observe here is the contrast, like the evolution from to. This from to framework will showcase a transition and where can you actually use it. It's very effective. See, in essay writing, if you take a look at the notification part, you will see one of the keywords in the essay notification, essay syllabus notification, notification, you'll see the syllabus, right? So one of the end keyword is effectiveness. What do you mean by effective? The usage of words in such a way that it creates the desired impact. What is the desired impact? Storytelling. That storytelling format should not only evoke an emotion, a positive emotion, but also leave the reader with a thought-provoking residue of whatever idea that you want to present. That's possible by a certain set of tools. This from to kind of a sentence framework architecture. This syntax is extremely effective in showcasing a transition, a change. Anywhere an undesirable trait to a desirable trait journey is explained, in the conclusion, if you are using this from to, just like how it is done here, that effectiveness component will be captured. What was the case before? What is the case now? From there till here, how did we arrive? That is what we explained in the body. Okay? That is the thing that you can observe here. Is there anything else? Not much. The usual repeated idea of antimicrobial resistance itself is there, so don't have to worry. Now, in this article, electoral roles. So this, I am not expecting you to by heart all this form 6, 6A, 7, etc. But this is an opportunity to go back and revise the basics. For example, Article 326, what is it about? And okay, after Article 326, we have RPA 1950, RPA 1951, the basic difference between them, SIR, Bihar SIR topic. All this were discussed in our previous videos. If you haven't watched it, please go back and watch it. I've made an entire video on this issue. Now, what is the point that I want you to focus on? This form 6A to 8. If you see, these 6 A to 8 are in a way an instrument to include as many people as possible. So if there is a question, examine how the electoral rolls are trying to be as inclusive as possible. If anything on those lines is there, you can see 6A, 7, 8 as a proof to that idea. Inclusivity. There are checks and balances also, as you can see here. So, are you expected to by heart these forms? No. But are you expected to be aware of what is the rough idea? Yes. Under which act? Yes. 1950. Okay? So, this is a quick revision of the already explained topic. Just go through this once. Revise your basic textbooks on the electoral processes and then read this article. It's a self-explanatory article. And the two articles that we have on mental health are more or less discussed in the context of how mental health was declared as a fundamental right in the Sukhdev Saha case that we discussed a few weeks ago. These articles are reiterating the same points. Both the articles have a central complaint. What is that complaint? Even though we have existing legislations like the National Health Policy or the Mental Health Care Act, neither the budget nor the attitude towards healthcare is reflecting the seriousness of the situation. Therefore, at every level, whether it is the number of doctors, infrastructure, the perception towards mental health, all of this needs to be revamped. These articles also discussed the kind of initiatives that the government came up with. For example, Manas, that is one initiative that the government came up with. Similarly, Manodarpan, what is it about? These kind of initiatives can be picked up and asked in prelims exam. So please have a look at those initiatives, and ultimately both these points should be linked to SDGs. Which SDG? Health. SDG number 3. Okay? So these are the takeaways, nothing much to discuss today, self-explanatory. Now, since we have time and an opportunity to learn what to pick up, if there are any freshers, how do we use newspaper articles? Just a quick recap. A lot of you must be already knowing. I see some new faces, that's why I'm repeating here. See, whenever you see data in newspapers, you are not expected to by heart these numbers and store it. Data should paint a picture. What do I mean by this? Let's say here, according to National Crime Record Bureau Accidental Deaths and Suicides in India report, there were 1,71,418 suicides in India. If you drop this number, I know it is a very big number, but statistics make sense when there is a point of comparison. So my advice to anyone who is indulging in this activity of collecting stats, don't waste your time. But you should know when you are writing exam, let's say for example you are making a note on mental health as a topic, you should know where to look out for facts. The source is mentioned here. As of now it is 2023. Let's say you are giving exam somewhere in 27 again. For whatsoever reason, you are giving it again in 27 or 28. You are not going to write 2023 data. So it is a futile attempt. It's a waste of time to invest your mental energy in mugging up data at this point. Do it in the last minute. But as far as the source is concerned, you won't get these sources again and again. Note them down and store it. Don't dump data, dump the source. Okay? And sometimes within the editorials, you will read it and you will understand a logic, the explainer given, why something is behaving in a certain way, or the link between two different phenomenon. That will not be clear in our traditional textbooks. The language might not be clear. Or let's say for example some legal questions, those will not be clear in our traditional polity textbooks. So in articles like this, when the situations and the contexts are explained through examples, you have to pick them up. For example, see here. Counseling must become a public infrastructure, not a charity. If you read this line in isolation, it will not really create an impact. Now, if I'm asking you, counseling must become a public infrastructure, not a charity, explain. Why? Why is it the case? Why is the author saying this statement? What is the significance of the word public infrastructure? The minute you start asking questions like this, even let's say for example you are reading the Telegram highlights that I'm posting, you look at this highlight and wonder, okay, I picked up the important information. But the way I want you to read is, you see this highlight, you question that highlight. Okay, why is the author saying this? And then you go back and read the next line. So you establish a backward and a forward linkage. That's when this statistics, that's when these examples make more sense. Okay? And it's a very casual activity that you can do sometime in the evening also, just by spending a few minutes looking at those highlights. See, nowadays, I started this channel way back in 2019. In the initial days, I posted a lot of content, like almost entire newspaper was analyzed. But over a period of time, I realized I was being inefficient, because a lot of information is redundant and unnecessary. In reality, let's say if you pick up one editorial per day, you have 365 editorials. We are discussing editorials every day almost. Do you see a repetition? Almost very few unique articles you would be finding. So that Telegram channel where you will find all this editorials, even if you read that 1 or 2 articles a day, they have the highest yield. And newspaper reading cannot be substituted. I have my own classes, I have my current affair notes, everything. But that is for a person who cannot afford to be consistent or doesn't have the time. It's a quick fix. And quick fixes will be like quick fixes. You cannot substitute your thinking for anyone. I can explain things to you, but can you repeat it just like that? The purpose of mentorship or the purpose of any class is not to just condense and take away that information alone. The purpose here is to learn the methodology of thinking and methodology of learning itself. And that comes with a sense of logic, what to do. In UPSC, in the present information overload era, knowing what and focus on what is extremely important, that's when you get maximum value. Okay? So, what did we learn today? We did not learn any new content because these topics were often repeated. What did we learn? We learned the art of presentation, or we just got an insight on how effectivity can be improved in our essays through the from to framework. Then we went on to see how we can interpret data. Let's say for example, in this article, when you see uh, this one, 682, like observe a pattern. Always look at a newspaper article not as a source of information. There are two ways to look at this newspaper in the long run. This attitudinal shift in your thought process will actually help your exam, in your exam. How? If you are looking at information, if you are looking at newspaper as an information source, what will happen? You're constantly digging information and you are piling up again and again more and more information, which I'm pretty sure you will not use. Look at this as a gym equipment. Just like how you use the gym equipment to train your muscle. Similarly, let's say if you develop a thought process towards a topic, like you organize a conceptual framework around, let's say, elections, you are going to see the logic arguments of this entire article and figure out where can I fit that, all this information in that framework. Constantly you're training your mind again and again to think in the same way so that your reaction time comes down. That is the purpose or the most efficient use of newspapers for UPSC. Every article writer will write in a different way. Some will, start with an anecdote, some will write critical commentary. If you summarize everything, it will be like an alphabet soup every single day. But the point they are trying to tell is always the same. Take out that essence, put it under a structure, repeat, revise, memorize, reproduce, see the mistake, correct. This is the feedback loop. Is it clear? Newspapers are not just a source of content. You will never be able to retrieve and utilize that information of newspapers in your real exam if that is how you are seeing. So any video that is just like a summary video of that editorial, I don't do that because I don't believe in that. So the logical flow of the narrative should always remain consistent. Like the way we move from point A to point B should be the same. That's when, no matter what kind of question you get in the exam, you will start thinking in the same way. That will reduce your reaction time. Otherwise, if you train your mind only for retrieving memory, it's impossible to clear this exam because we are in the age of generative AI. So the questions are also most probably designed using generative AI. So what UPSC is actually doing, UPSC is giving you the prompt and you are the generative AI, you are the ChatGPT in that exam and you have to generate content on the spot. How did ChatGPT start creating content? Is it through Xerox copies? No. It is through predictability, pattern recognition, reinforcement learning. It is just mimicking human mind. It's unfortunate that we are showing ChatGPT and telling you how to think when it is actually in reality done using human mind. So all I am saying is start using it in a way that is very structured, predictable, repeatable. Some of you were asking, like, I don't know if those people are in this class, how do I use newspapers? I think I gave your answer. Okay, that's it with respect to the content part. These statistics and everything are repeatable, like in the previous articles also you found them. I don't want to waste your time reading out the statistics. So how do we use this time? Let's write an answer. So depending on the same discussion, we'll use the information from the articles. Let it be an open book exam, but what I will be expecting from you is the flow of arguments. Okay, let's see. This is the question. Mental health crisis is a result of social stigma amplified by institutional apathy. Examine the implications of the statement in the context of mental health as a fundamental right. I don't want you to give me statistics, case laws, anything. Just tell me how should we structure this. I don't know, you tell me. Do you think this is a GS2 or a GS4 question? GS2. 2. Okay? GS2. Now, tell me the flow of this question. How would you introduce this? Just think, and when you are ready, we'll start. Hit the point directly. Okay. Anyone willing to contribute? Okay. Okay. Yes, anyone from the middle and the back benches willing to contribute? Okay. So the question has two parts. What are the two parts? Mental health crisis, social stigma, institutions, implications, fundamental right. So you have GS1 here. So this is GS1, social stigma, amplified by institutional apathy. This is governance, GS2. Examine the implications of the statement in the context of fundamental rights, core polity, GS2. This is governance, this is polity. So this is the process, this is the principle. Now you have a reality, a process, a principle. How will you tie them? See, can you see the link between reality and the principle? This is the problem, this is the solution, this is the process that should, mainstream the solution. this is how it is, but is it actually manifesting in reality? This is how it was supposed to be. The question is it actually manifesting in reality? Yes or no? So the question should address in the intro, according to me, all this. The idea of mental health, owing to the social conditions, is stigmatized and ignored both in principle and processes. However, the recent Supreme Court judgment in the Sukhdev Saha case recognizes mental health as an essential facet of well-being. Clear? All the parts covered. However, mere recognition as a right will not automatically translate into governance processes. What are the reasons? Write down. Okay, when you are writing the reasons of a failure of any idea, can you tell me how to generate content? Any generic point is fine. Think of healthcare. What all do you need healthcare? So we need federal cooperation, laws. Then we need funds. We need doctors, that is functionaries. The 3F: funds, functions and functionaries in governance. I told you this approach previously. This is the bare minimum that you can come up with. Okay? Anything that you can think of? See, this is the governance part. What about the root cause? Society. Are you talking anything about that? Awareness. Okay. So, social awareness. Now, when I'm talking about awareness, it is not a homogeneous campaign. Different regions require different strategies. How? Rural, urban. That is one methodology of classification. Then age group. Children, old age. Then another classification. Can you think of any other classification? Gender. Female, male. Why am I listing down all this without any coherent structure? Because in the exam, without a predefined structure, this is how we will end up writing. Did we have a established thought process here? When you see this question, did you think of a logical progression of points or started dumping whatever came to your mind? Most likely, we will remember mnemonics like this and start writing whatever comes to our mind. Then you realize, oh, I started with governance, but I did not recognize the root causes, and I'll start writing about social awareness. Okay, you start writing about social awareness, then suddenly you realize, oh, I only saw one way of classification, rural, urban. Then I'll write one more. Then you realize, okay, apart from age, there is gender also. And you end up writing in such an incoherent fashion that it appears very bulky. And at one point, it feels like you have lost yourself in trying to explain the problem. Where you wanted to explain the polity problem, you ended up over-explaining the GS1. Now that you are aware of the problem, let's take a step back. How would you rather change this presentation style? You will start with society. Will you write like this? Rural, urban, gender, age. No? What will you do then? Yes? How will you present this idea in the shortest possible way? No, no. What I'm asking is the same point instead of over elaborating it, because this is not the main part of the question. It is the polity part, governance part. That would work well in ethics. This is, I would want most of your content to, predominantly to take the language of whatever paper you are writing. If you are writing GS2 paper, use GS2 language. Instead of this, what I would say is entire GS1 part, put it in a flowchart or a diagram. I'll say problems of social problems, or what is the question actually? Social stigma. Social stigma and I'll put, and to add value to this, let's now go to the newspaper to see if there are any relevant statistics. See here. This is the social statistics, GS1 part. Men, family problems, substance abuse, marriage related, all this which have a genesis in society and social reasoning. You bring that part up in first part of the question through a flow chart kind of a diagram. What are you doing by this? Instead of wasting time to over explain what are the reasons, what you're not writing a sociology answer, you're not even writing GS1 society answer. This is supposed to be GS2 answer. So what you are supposed to do here is just acknowledge that this is a problem, move on. Analysis should be on legal and governance, legal part and the governance part. So this statistics can be used, and then you move on to the second part. Institutional apathy. Why are we saying there is institutional apathy? Because again, I'll use the statistics. Yeah. On paper, laws appear progressive. The mental health care decriminalized so and so, yet suicides have risen. And we have this Manodarpan. Some statistics are there here. You can use that. You can use this. And this article is also there, right? Yeah. See, you can use these data pointers to showcase this institutional apathy points. So you are using data itself to support your idea. Institutions exist. Reality, what is the promise? What is the reality? Put it in a box, which will make it easy for the examiner to understand your analysis. GS1, GS2, governance failure is established. Now comes the actual question, fundamental rights, the logic of Article 21, Sukhdev Saha judgment, and the Supreme Court observation points, which will complete the analysis. Clear? This is how you should structure your answer. If the same question is asked in GS4, the language, presentation, format, everything will change. You will still use the statistics, examples, because the facts cannot be, they cannot be manipulated. But the presentation format changes. Okay? The focus will be on values in ethics. Why this is happening will be explained in ethics. Reasoning part becomes more important. In GS2, the problem should be dissected and analysis becomes important. A legal and social analysis becomes important. A process analysis becomes important. In GS4, you go to the root of the problem. Why is it like this? Why are people behaving the way they are? An element of sociology and psychology comes into the picture and is tied to the values and ethics. Presentation changes. I hope you have learned some nuances about answer writing today. That's it for the day. Thank you.